Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I'm Justin, and I'm competing in a wilderness survival match with Dan.
Oh, shit. I'm Nico, and I am Casey from The Deer Hunter. You know, the band. Shout out to The Deer Hunter.
And I am Dan, a guitarist for the band Deer Hunter, not to be confused with The Deer Hunter.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yo, that would be a pretty sick tour, though.
Oh, would.
And we've got a little bit of a special episode for you guys tonight. So we were actually able to get a pre-screener for the movie Demigod, directed by Miles Doleac. But since the movie comes out today, what we're going to do is we're going to do our review a little bit different. We're going to open with a spoiler-free section, and then from there, we're going to continue our service as normal, where we go into the spoiler section.
Oh, we're going to service them?
Yeah,
Is that what we're going to do, Justin?
we provide a service.
All right. Okay. It's just 3 wild boys servicing your ears right quick.
Okay, you see, you people want to take words like service. I'm sure this pleases Miles greatly, this conversation in his review.
Oh, totally.
All right. So, directed, as we said, by Miles Doleac, this stars Rachel Nichols as Robin, Johannes Miles as Leo, Miles Doleac plays Arthur. We've also got Lindsay Ann Williams as Hetica, Rachel Riles as Amalia, and Chima Chekwa as Nunos. So, to give you guys the spoiler-free portion of it, upon the death of her grandfather, a woman, that is Robin, and her husband, Leo, return to her birthplace in Germany's Black Forest, only to find a terrifying secret awaits them. We won't tell you any more in this spoiler-free section, but Dan, how does this movie look? What's the cinematography like?
So I actually kind of liked a lot of the cinematography. It takes place very predominantly in a forest. So we've got a lot of nature, a lot of woods. There's a couple like really cool shots. I thought there's a scene where one character is running away and it's sort of like the sunset sort of backdrop. And we sort of see his silhouette running like either up or down the hill while he's being chased. And I thought that was a really cool scene. So we've got some cool shots in there. And very dark, but I thought it was also well lit for being in a very predominantly nighttime movie.
I also liked a lot of what I saw in terms of the cinematography. I didn't know if this was to flex or not, but towards the beginning of the movie, there's a scene with Robin and Leo, and they're both kind of in the house where they're staying. And there is a very long shot where it's just unbroken and the camera moves to keep everybody in frame, but there's no like jump cut. I can't say for certain because that was the one that really caught my eye, but I did appreciate that. How I like it when there's not too many cuts personally. I enjoy seeing like a scene play out. I think that takes a lot of skill to do. So I did enjoy that quite a bit. I also love the locale. I like the woods, the woods scenes made me feel like I was in the woods. And that sounds dumb, but trust me, there's sometimes you're watching a scene where characters are like in the woods and it looks like our movie, Dan, that we filmed in like high school where
that
was a good movie though. Are you talking about the Trigonator?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah,
bro.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, bro.
We got to find that.
We got to find that, right?
Next bonus episode.
Or the one where we were fighting, the vampires or zombies created by Saddam Hussein.
Oh God.
I can say that, but no. But yeah, so I liked what I saw. I liked what I saw very much in the movie. Nico, thoughts on looks, sir?
Yeah, no, I really dig the way it looked, and it felt sufficiently primal to your point about feeling like you're really in the woods. It really, truly did feel like you were out in the middle of the German fucking wilderness, and it felt pretty immersive.
Agreed. I guess one last point that I will make as well. So this is a horror movie. You got a little bit of gore in this one, and I did like the gore as well, I will say.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Scenes that contained violence, I was a very big fan of them. And I thought they were nice. I thought they were good. I really liked about the distribution. I will not say too much more on it because I don't want to run into spoilers. I know I'm going to get carried away, but I definitely liked it. Now, another thing that I know we all liked because we talked about it beforehand, the sound, Nico, on a scale from 1 to 10, the soundtrack bumps, doesn't it?
This soundtrack is fucking killer. Like, I was getting massive Angelo Badalamenti vibes from like Twin Peaks all the way through like Trent Reznor through some of the industrial stuff and the synths and the choirs that were in there. It sounded menacing. It sounded, it sounded hype. It sounded fun. It was honestly my favorite part of the movie. The soundtrack was so good.
Honestly, that soundtrack was really good. Now, when it comes to synths, I already said it. I said it once and I say it again. I would service a synth, bro. And that literally was how I felt from the jump. I came in and right from the start, like right when they got to the house and those synths started up, at first I was like, oh man, I could really use some more synth. It's like that one cowbell sketch from SNL.
Yeah.
I was like, it's good, but it needs some more synth. And then there was more synth. And I was like, oh shit, that was it, bro. That was it.
They knew
that
what
made
they
me
were
happy.
doing.
That made me happy. And the movie, though, is not entirely synths, is it, Dan?
Not entirely, no. There's some other instrumentation in there, but I mean, you guys have kind of nailed it. Like the soundtrack was probably my favorite part of the film.
Mm-hmm.
It was just really, really good. And then on a technical level, I was pretty impressed overall with the dialogue and the Foley and everything sounded great. There were a couple times here and there where like one character's dialogue sounded a little noisy or something, like they couldn't re-record it in post or something like that. But far and away, it was sounded very good. So I'm pretty impressed with that.
Another thing that I think we should mention to the audience here is a good chunk of this movie is in German.
Mhm.
So there is some mandatory reading for subtitles. And one thing that I can actually recommend to those of you who don't like to read subtitles, go fuck yourselves, because
Yeah.
they
Good.
are, it's once you start reading subtitles, you'll be able to see some very good movies. So
Yeah.
I'm also glad that a lot of it was in German because I feel like that's what should be happening too. I
Yeah.
mean, like
Yes.
if everyone spoke English or
Yeah.
at least predominantly English, it would be weird. And I think it being in German helped it be more
Authentic?
authentic, more primally, more, authentic, I guess is the best word for it.
I think it just makes sense that
Yeah.
they'd all be speaking German. And obviously, there are some characters that speak both German and English. But I think another thing that helps really get the point across is largely Robin doesn't really speak German aside from a smattering here and there. Leo doesn't really speak
Yeah.
German at all. So, I mean, if you were an English speaker or an American in this case, and you really couldn't speak,
Or Canadian, eh?
if you couldn't speak the language, obviously you'd have trouble. And there are actual scenarios in this movie where people have some difficulty communicating because if you speak two different languages, you may not be able to communicate. Who would have thought? But to wrap up our spoiler-free section here, do we recommend this one to the audience? Do we think the audience should go out and watch this one?
Yeah, definitely.
Dan?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's got a really cool vibe to it, and I enjoyed it.
I definitely agree. I second that. I think it does have a really great vibe. The soundtrack is bumping once again, so make sure you got your sound turned up, however it is you want to do it. I actually, believe it or not, I started watching it, and then I actually went to my other room and I put my headphones on. That's how much I was enjoying
There's a particular part where they pan some phased guitars left and right, and that just sounded cool as fuck.
See, that's why I put on my headphones, because my headphones contain the power. I really dug it. I enjoyed it a lot. I like the vibe. The story is also kind of unique. You don't really get too many stories like that. So I think it's well worth watching, and I'd recommend that our audience does go watch it. It's available in most places online, or it should be available really anywhere that you can acquire legally, obviously, movies online. So definitely go check it out. So you heard it from us here at Don't Open That Door. This movie is pretty good. Definitely go check it out. Definitely go see it. It is worth your investment. It's worth your currency, if you will, to support the endeavor. And so we tell you now, if you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. Go watch the movie. From this point on, regular service begins. We're about to start the spoilers. You guys ready to roll?
You like this?
Ready to service.
Thank you,
I
Dan.
guess.
That's what I like to hear. So, from the top, this movie opens with a scene of a pregnant woman fleeing 3 priestesses and their escort. Try as she might, the woman is unable to escape, and she's taken back to the priestesses' hideout. In the hideout, the woman gives birth to some kind of horned abomination. 2 guesses as to who that might be. Afterwards, we swap over to Robin and her husband Leo. Remember, we talked about them in the intro. On their way to Robin's grandfather's house. There, they meet Arthur, an acquaintance of Robin's grandfather and his daughter, Amalia, which, by the way, that's a great fucking name, Amalia. Can I just say that?
That's a dope name, yeah.
It is. And the two enjoy an evening together before turning in for the night. And I mean, Nico, I'm sure they have a great night together, right?
No, unfortunately. We've got Robin and Leo trying to get some good night's rest, and it's just all interrupted in the worst possible way you can have, which is, a bunch of priestesses showing up and forcing you to drink this vile concoction that knocks them out, and then they kidnap them, tie them to trees, or chain them to trees, rather, and it's not good. So Robin and Leo awaken in the woods along with Arthur and his daughter Amalia and 2 other women. Priestesses at this point reappear and say that they've been captured for the Great Hunt, and the captives will be hunted by Nunos, a demigod of the hunt and master sort of relationship of the wilds. And they set everyone free, and the hunt is underway, much in a most dangerous game except with a demigod and witches.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dan, how's this go?
So after they're all set free, the group breaks up and Nunos claims his first victim, but Leo manages to get away and runs into Arthur. Arthur says that they need to attack the priestesses and get them to call off the hunt. Leo agrees, but then Arthur kind of blindsides him, knocking him unconscious. When Leo recovers, he finds that Arthur has actually tied him to a tree and plans on using him as a distraction while Arthur goes to look for his daughter. Nunos appears and, sportingly, actually sets Leo free, but then very quickly kills him afterwards. So, kind of scene change here, and Amalia meets up with Robin, and the two hide out until Arthur finds them. Robin confronts Arthur about what happens to Leo, and Arthur slips up, letting Robin know that he actually abandoned her. Robin and Arthur get into a fight, and Nunos ends up attacking, killing Arthur. Robin finds Amalia, and the two attempt to escape, but Nunos captures them both, taking them back to his lair.
Nico, take us home.
All right, well, my home is also a lair, so, fitting. Not sure why I just said that, but anyway, Nunos kills one of his priestesses, claiming that it is Robin's role to stand by his side as a priestess and sort of continue on the tradition. Robin sows dissent, though, in the priestess's escort, though, causing him to attack Nunos. While he's distracted, Amalia sets one of the priestesses on fire, which was rad as hell, and Robin kills the other one. Nunos then returns, and Amalia manages to escape, thankfully, but Nunos starts talking with Robin and tells her that it is actually her destiny to serve him, and that there is a long line of lineage. Her lineage goes...
A long line of lineage.
Long line of lineage. Her ancestors go back all the way back through the ancient, Rome and Gaul and stuff, and have served him, and it's her destiny to continue that. But Robin, seeing no way out, slits her own throat, saying that she is nobody's servant. And then Amalia manages to fully escape and is found by some foresters, indicating that the horned man set her free.
So normally I'd say this is where we talk about how it looks and how it sounds. We've already done that. So let's dive right in, shall we? First off, this is a horror movie, and we talk oftentimes about the general trope of whether or not to show your bad guys. There's kind of 2 operations of thought. You have the John Carpenter Halloween style, where we see Michael Myers throughout the movie. And then you also have, something like Jaws, where they don't really show the shark a lot till the very end. This movie goes for kind of more of the former. We see the priestesses right at the very start. We see the priestess's escort, who's this big, buff motherfucker. We see the demigod pretty, I think starting midway through the movie, we see the demigod. And he's not really hidden too much. We can see him. So how do we feel about that? The fact that we're able to see these, evil beings so well, so quickly.
I kind of liked it. It was a change of pace because, like you said, a lot of films do kind of hold their cards. And it's also interesting that not only we see them, but the characters also see them as well. So I think that kind of introduces some sort of terror in a different way as well, because the priestesses all have different sort of personalities to them, and they're definitely more eclectic. So I think it kind of gives the movie a little bit more character, having these bad guys actually have personality aside from just scary, menacing, hidden kind of people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One of the priestesses, she's more like feral. She, like crawls around a lot, and like it was kind of funny because when they broke into the house with Robin and Leo in it, there's a part where Leo just gets like tossed aside by the, kind of
Literally.
enforcer.
Hmm.
And there was a priestess hiding behind the curtain for Robin. And then she comes up behind her and just like chokes her out. And then there's a part where Robin's like, "Oh, there's three priestesses. I only saw two." I was like, "Yeah, because the third one was choking you out." But Nico, what's your take on it as well? Being able to see the bad guy so well.
Yeah, no, I think it was done really well, in particular due to specifically the cinematography. There are most of the shots with Nunos, he is slightly out of focus or further back in the frame in the background, and that even though you do see him pretty clearly, it still gives a sort of mystery, an air of mystery to it, because you're not like right up front and personal with him. It still seems sort of like a bit further removed, and I really liked that. There was one scene in particular where I think it was towards the end where Karanos is talking with Robin about her destiny, and the camera's focusing on a torch there, and we see just the sort of out of focus shot of Karanos' head, and I thought that in particular was pretty nice.
Now, I feel like talking about, Kiernan so much, let's talk about him. How do we think that he looked? And I'll kind of take this one for the lead. I generally liked the look of Kiernan. I know that in certain representations, and we'll get more into the mythos in a little bit, but I think in certain representations, Kiernan is sometimes a person, with like the antlers or whatever of a deer, stag maybe, and I think that kind of suited well to his appearance in the movie. He did look more animal in this movie a little bit. He didn't look like a dude with antlers. He, was kind of animalistic too. But he had, like a dope kind of sword that he would, use to like kill shit. He also rocked a crossbow, which I was conflicted about the crossbow because I feel like the crossbow was,
Man's invention.
yeah, like I feel like the crossbow is kind of like a,
Would a longbow have been better, you think?
yeah, that's what I would have thought. But then again, he also has a sword.
Eh.
So, I mean,
Yeah,
to a certain
true.
extent, you would have had to at some point in time
Bronze
indulge.
Age only.
Yeah, I mean, at some point in time, you would have had to indulge. But I generally liked it. The only major thing that I didn't necessarily like so much, there's a couple scenes of Nunos where his eyes are supposed to have this kind of red flashing quality. And there's times where it's kind of okay, but sometimes it took me out of it a little bit because the eyes were almost kind of lasery. And I thought that was kind of a little bit of a juxtaposition along with like the kind of nature aspect of the movie to then have these eyes that still reminded me of like a laser light. You know what I mean? So that did kind of take me out of it 2%. And that was probably the biggest flaw with me in terms of how it looked. Otherwise, I thought it was, I thought it was all right. I thought it was all right. So, Dan, your thoughts?
I agree with you quite a bit there. I liked Nunos quite a bit until we got really close up on him. And I think in general, I liked the vibe of him, and I enjoyed the mask that was worn and everything. I thought it looked good. But sometimes, like, there was a scene when he was speaking, and like Nico had said, there's a lot of near that end scene, he's out of focus a lot, which I thought was kind of cool. But then there's one or two times where he's in focus, but the mouth movements I think were maybe CG added later or something, but they didn't look quite right to me. But overall, I liked the design of Cernunnos, and I liked that he was sort of a blend between human and creature.
Mm.
And I enjoyed the human aspects of him because it wasn't just completely nature. It was sort of a blend of human and nature together that I thought was pretty cool.
And I think that was absolutely the point, too,
Yeah.
for what it's
Yeah.
worth.
All right, Nico, why don't you go ahead and tell us about how he looked?
So, Nunos is a very large man. I would say probably around like, or not man, like demigod, I should say, around like hulking 6'6" or something. He's hugely muscular. He's got this boar head almost, or something feral. And there are these, horns and what look like some sort of tribal markings all over him too. It was a really cool design. It's not something that you see too often in horror movies, and I definitely appreciate the direction that they took, regardless of whether or not my dude had death ray vision at times.
All right. And to continue here, we would be remiss reviewing this movie without talking about the actual real life Cernunnos mythos. So, Nico, he is a Celtic god, correct? God,
Yeah.
demigod?
Yeah.
Why don't you elaborate a little bit?
Sure. So Cernunnos is, like you said, he's from sort of like Celtic and like Gallo-Roman mythology. He represents traditionally like the bonds between nature and sort of like the dichotomy between nature and man. He was also, in particular, due to the representation of the horns, a god of fertility and a god of life. In particular, though, we get this scene where at the end he's talking about sort of the legacy that his servants have had over the different centuries and stuff. And they go like way, 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 way back. And there's always been this following of hunters who go and serve him. And I think it's a nice sort of amalgamation there that we have a being who himself is kind of not really a mishmash of other myths, but he is sort of just a combination of a bunch of different kind of traits that are all melted together in this sort of presentation of it being wild and feral and having this aspect of the hunt be a key figure. And that's why I really do like that Robin turned out to be a character who had some sort of ancestral connection to him. So I think it fits both with the presentation and the mythos of it.
Now, Dan, I want to talk to you real quick. Nico just gave us that lore dump. So I want to know, in this movie, do you consider Cernunnos to be a evil figure necessarily? How would you describe him?
I wouldn't quite put him as evil. He's clearly, obviously, the antagonist, but I wouldn't say he's evil. He's more of nature. And I think that this movie, and we might talk about it a little bit in a little bit here, but I think this movie has some themes of humanity's growth versus nature, humans destroying nature and nature reclaiming itself and things like that. And I think that Cernunnos is a good representation of that. I think they said every year, I believe, he hunts. And, it's not like a major hunt. It's not like he's killing off like tens of thousands of people or anything like that. But I think that it still can help symbolize, hey, humans, you don't control nature. Like there is still this other force on this planet that is superior to you. And I think that's kind of cool. And it's, to me, just nature reclaiming itself a little bit.
Something I want to say really quick about that is that I think it's interesting that we have the sort of main character, Rachel Nichols, as Robin. She dies, thus ending the sort of lineage, the line of people who would be serving him. So nature ends with the death of man.
It's funny that you say that because I don't know if that would necessarily represent the end. So my kind of interpretation of Robin dying at the end is that he is going to need to like try again or do something else. But like, I think there's still, I don't think you could stop him. And I think that is and I was literally about to talk about this anyways, the fact that he's not defeated in this movie, the fact that he's never really hurt. People, the one guy, the enforcer of the priestesses, tries to attack him. Cernunnos just kind of like eats those blows. Like he's not really perturbed by it. And I do think that it's kind of one of those things where I I think he's not defeated because you can't defeat nature. He is rebirth. He is
Right.
death. He is rebirth. So I think that's what's just gonna have to be. And I think he's gonna pop up, in some unfortunate pregnant woman.
I think there's also a little glimpse of human hubris there as well, because, at the beginning of the movie, I actually had to rewatch the opening scene to better understand the context of it. In that opening scene, we see basically this lady giving birth to Nunos, essentially. And the priestesses are sort of the midwives, giving birth or helping give birth. And near the end of the movie, when, what's her name? Hedeka? Is that her name?
Hedeka, yep.
Hedeka, when she's dying, she looks at Karanos and she's like, please save me. I birthed you. Like I brought you into this world. And he kind of looks at her and he's like, you fool. Like I've been revived. I've been back thousands of times and I will continue to do so. Like, who are you? Like you aren't anybody to me, and I think that's kind of gives a quick glimpse of just human hubris of, oh, hey, look at how great we are. And nature saying, you ain't shit.
I also really dug the fact that he said people have worshipped me knowingly or unknowingly.
Yeah.
And I gave them my knowledge, and it was like footprints in the mud. And I kind of like that a lot because you know how sometimes, like people go out and you're outdoors, whatever like that, or like, you go for a trek up in the woods or something like that, and you just feel connected to nature. And the movie was basically saying, in that case, that's him. Like you are feeling connected to him, and he gives knowledge. And it's interesting because in this movie, we see the hunt, right? That's what we see from Nunos. But in actuality, he's more than that. He's also a big provider. It was said that Nunos, he kind of like taught men how to hunt and slaughter and grow strong by consuming meat. Like he taught these things. So it's almost kind of like a thing where, to Dan's earlier point, don't forget your place. Because yes, we have all this technology nowadays. We have everything else. But at the same time, we cannot ever really break ourselves apart from the cycle of nature. Like we can't break ourselves apart from the fact that we are part of this. And just as we hunt animals, he could hunt us too. Because that's just how it is.
And he did.
So I did like that a lot. Now, I wanted to quiz you, Nico, real quick. What's it say that he said he always lets one go, one survives the hunt, whether to tell the tale or to serve?
So I think that you kind of answered your own question there. Like, there's always got to be someone who is not necessarily willing or not tell other people about it, and thus causes a more of a cultural awareness of this figure. There is the idea that history belongs to those who write history are the ones who win it. I said that. How does the phrase go?
History is written by the victors.
Yeah, history is written by the victors, and by choosing to let Amalia, etc., go, he is choosing to let her run away in fear and tell other people about just what kind of monster he is and what his powers are. So in that way, he's only going to grow stronger and more prevalent.
And last up, I watched the movie with captions on. What do we take from the fact that Nunos cries at the end? Now it says cries. He's not over here like sobbing in tears. He gives like a
It's got me crying in the club.
He just lets out kind of a primal sadness cry, much like myself. Yeah. And I wonder, I'm not a whale though. I will battle a squid, bro. I will battle a squid right now on camera.
I would.
Yeah, I know you would.
I want to see that.
So,
yeah, right? Going from frogs to squids, what's happening here?
But anyhow, oh, y'all remember when I fought that frog? Anyways. So what do we take? I ruined like a very pivotal moment, but what do we take from it? The fact that Nunos is sad at the fact that Robin takes her life and she's gone.
I think that he is human and nature at the same time. So even though I think that he's kind of, with the hunt and everything, like I said before, I think that he's sort of reminding humans not to be above themselves. I also think that he is trying to, coexist with humans at a certain level, anyways. And like Nico had said, Robin's ancestors have been serving him for generations and millennia, maybe, just a long, long time. So I think that her ending that line probably does pain him a little bit. And it's nothing that like he can't get over in time anyways, but I think this sound weird, but I think he was right in being sad for a little
Yeah.
bit at least, and then
Yeah.
I'm sure next iteration when he comes back to life or whatever again, he's
He'll get a
probably
rebound priestess.
yeah, pretty much. But I like that it's not just Nunos being big bad, I rule over everything. It's a little bit of give and take, a little bit, I think.
Okay. And I want to also ask, I think it's fair to ask, is Arthur's character evil at all for what he did to Leo? The fact that he knocked out Leo and bound him to a tree so that Nunos could kill him. And actually, it's funny because Nunos is like, I'm not about to kill somebody tied to a tree. He lets him go
Yeah, right.
and then shoots him. Personally, I thought Nunos could have given him like a longer count. He could have counted to like 10 or something like that before he started shooting him. But I guess, is Arthur evil, or is he really just out there just trying to get his daughter and doing absolutely everything that he can?
I think he's evil in the same way that some villains in like The Walking Dead could be considered evil. Like they're looking out for them and theirs, and I don't necessarily blame them for that. But if they had stuck with the plan of actually going against those witches, I feel like things could have turned out differently.
I don't think they could call off the hunt, though. I think that was a load of shit. I don't think they have any control over Nunos.
Maybe.
I think he's a little bit evil because I feel like if he thought for like a little bit longer, he would have come up with other ways to distract Nunos or some other thing aside from sacrificing somebody. I feel like that was the most convenient thing for him to do, so he did it. But I think that he could have not done it as well. If that makes sense.
That makes sense. That does make sense, actually. I want to now talk about the priestesses. And one thing I want to say is there's a conversation they have, which I think is pivotal to the movie, where they discuss themselves and the cycle of Nunos, so to speak. Birth, life, death, rebirth. And there's always priestesses. There's always this cycle of life, death, and rebirth. There is the earth itself. And one of the priestesses questions, will this ever end? Will one day, things stop? And, kind of the head priestess, Hedeca, is like, well, we will go away. Humans die. There have been priestesses before us. There'll be priestesses after us. But Nunos will not stop because Nunos is nature. Nunos is the earth. The earth will not stop. But then you kind of have some other dialogue playing into it, which Arthur delivers, because Arthur talks about, a god of before, and he talks about kind of like the olden days before men screwed up the world.
Those ancient days.
Those ancient days. And I wonder, what do we take from that? I mean, are these, in a kind of a weird way, this kind of mini cult here, are they good at the end of it all? Observing the fact that this god keeps coming back. Yeah, he hunts, but is he, I don't think he's bad. I don't think they're necessarily evil because Nunos is a necessary part.
I picked a different, bro.
Well, beg away, sir. Beg away.
They straight up murdered people, bro.
Who they murder?
You don't
okay, one
remember.
guy had to die, right?
Yeah, and like they are largely culpable for summoning him and thus getting everyone else killed.
I don't think they could stop Nunos from coming.
But they are the ones who initiated the ritual to get him there. They're saying, oh, yes, now he's here. In German and more formally.
He is here now. Yes.
He is here now. Yes.
Well, I don't think he would be there necessarily because I think Nunos was going to pop out one way or another. I think they were just locating Nunos to assist in the birth. I don't think you could stop nature. I don't think you could stop Nunos.
I think you might be right because I can't remember the exact wording of it, but in that opening scene, I think the priestesses do allude to the fact that like we are here to help you get through this birth or something to that effect.
Yeah. They literally say that. And I mean, that's just how it is. I think they need to be there, or they would like to be there from the start. But there's that talk. But I kind of want to divert away from whether or not Nunos can, embryonize at will. And
Come again.
I'm using the words in the dictionary, bro. So
Okay.
now I want to talk about that cycle. Dan, do you think humans will ruin this planet and render him weak and pointless?
That's a really good question.
I try.
I mean, at our current state of affairs, it seems like we are fucking up the planet, and I'm sure that we are. But
hot take.
At the same time, I mean, we could even look at this on a very macro level. I mean, if you think about like the dinosaurs and shit, like,
God.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I mean, a meteor took them out, right? So meteor could take us out. That's nature. But even if you look at it like what we're currently going through with COVID and everything, I mean, this kind of shit happened 100 years ago. And I think 100 years before that too. And, it happens. Not trying to sound disrespectful in any way to those who died, but, it's just like this cycle of nature we can't beat. And even though, yes, we do have vaccines and things to help us get through that, obviously, at a certain point, there's only so much we can do. And a vaccine is a reaction to that. So we can be reactionary to what nature does, but I think nature always is going to have the better game to it.
I tend to agree a lot with that. So I personally feel like I have a very deep connection with nature, particularly with the tropical climate, where I would beat Dan at a survival challenge.
Are you sure?
Yes.
We gotta test that.
I think that, given the fact that we are doing what we do as humans, we have islands of plastic. We've got a lot wrong within the realms of the Black Forest. I'm sure Nunos is king, but I feel like eventually he too could potentially be undone by just humans. But there's a point to that because we'd also be undoing ourselves at the same time. And one quote, okay, so Nunos goes like, nature is pain. And the priestesses say that shit too. Everyone's going on about how nature is pain.
Pinhead has entered the chat.
So there's a moment where they're running away and Katya slips and just like straight up wipes out, like busts her ass on the fucking floor. And she's got a limp later on for how hard she hit the floor. And oh my God, when she like was running so fast and then like slipped and busted, I was like, yo, first off, I couldn't tell if that was like legit or if it was like acted. I really couldn't tell because that looked legit to me almost. It looked legit as hell. Yo, she hit the floor. I was like, yo, are you okay? And she was limping and stuff after. So I wonder if like maybe she slipped and then they decided to like play it up or like, I don't know what it is. But first off, that's some shit that would happen to me. Like I'd be running away from Nunos and probably run into a tree or something. But I don't know. Like that was that. But also to your point, Dan, somewhat nihilistic point, but to your point about, nature being pain and cruel. Nature is cruel.
Hey, you said that. Not me.
Okay, you said something that reinforced my point about nature being cruel. But to kind of pose a real quick question here before we go into the what would you do, which I'm sure will be eventful and full of nothing but positive messages.
Mm-hmm.
Amalia, does she fulfill the requirements to be a final girl? Do you think?
Oh, no.
Strong no. Why is that?
She's not someone who she doesn't have the vibe of a final girl at all. She just happens to be a girl who is final.
I
would agree. Dan, speak up.
I feel like she's not quite old enough to be a final girl, but
I also agree there.
But I mean, multiple times she says we are hunters, not hunted. And she fashions weapons. She fights back against Nunos. She fights back against the priestesses. And she lives. And I think that I feel like if she was 5 years older, 10 years older in this movie, she would be a final girl.
See, I disagree for one reason only. Final girls are often the object of these kind of serial killers or monsters' wrath.
Fair.
you have, Nancy, I believe. Hopefully I got that right, from Nightmare. And
Yes.
Freddy wants her. Freddy wants her bad. And the movie is her pursuit of her. Her friends too, but her pursuit of her.
See also
And
Halloween.
yeah, exactly. Like that to me is what makes a final girl. I don't think Nunos really pursued Amalia any more than anyone else. I think he quite liked Amalia because of her spirit and survival and everything
Mhm.
else. I
And
think
like
he
he
liked
let her
that.
go, which a
Yeah.
villain would
Yeah.
never let a final girl go.
True. That's a good
Exactly.
point. Good point.
Exactly. Good job, Nico. Internet high five. We finally agreed on a point. Take it back because it's time for the what would you do?
Ah, hell.
So I'm going to make this real simple and to the point. Dan, turns out you actually inherited some land in the Black Forest.
Nice.
So me and Nico head out the way just to see what's good. And all of a sudden we get kidnapped by some priestesses and they're like, yep, time for the final hunt. Y'all got to run. So what would you do to try and avoid Cernunnos? And let's say you knew that if you were the last man standing, you could walk out. So what would you do to survive? How would you survive this hunt?
Well, if we go back to middle school and we did these quizzes,
I hate you.
let's see. I would first be like Amalia and fashion some weapons, and I would try to fuck up the priestesses, even if even if they can't actually stop the shit. They're the ones that wrote me into this, so fuck them.
Good point. And after you've like KO'd them, what would you do? And by the way, KO means kill out. They were killed out.
Does it?
So
Okay. I would probably run. I know our guy Arthur said it was like 3 days to the next village, but I guess I'll take my chances.
fair enough. Fair enough. Nico, how about you? What's your outdoorsmanship like?
I would be running from the jump. Like, I would be either running from the jump or just trying to stick together with y'all because let's be fucking real, I am the weak link here.
So as Nico stated, he's the weak link. So my first moves is going to be to like leave him behind.
Oof.
So
That's fair.
look,
The roles have reversed.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep it real, okay? I'm gonna keep it real. First thing I'm doing is, so if I don't typically, and I'm gonna say this straight up, again, I follow all local laws, but I typically have a knife on me if I go into the
Fucking
woods.
statist.
So all I do is I typically have my hunting knife on me when I go into the woods. So I should have that, but if I don't have that, then I'm definitely gonna fashion some kind of weapon. It's important when you're running away to not run in a straight line. That's
You
like
would serpentine.
super critical. And I would definitely, first thing to do is to try and find some kind of water to wash off my scent or like cut through a river. So that way I can, or some kind of, like smaller river, a creek, but try and get my scent gone. And then honestly, I can't navigate by the sun, but I could navigate by the stars. So I'd eventually go in a direction, I guess. But you could also, if you spit on your hand and you hold it
Bruh.
up and then lick your hand after, you can actually tell like which way the wind is blowing and use that.
You just...
No, Nico, right now, try it. Spit on your hand and then hold it
I'm
up.
indoors, you dumb motherfucker.
It works indoors too. Try it.
No.
All right.
What is the
Audience.
point of this?
And this is why Justin failed those quizzes.
What?
Well, that's that, I guess. So now we're going to cast our eyes over to the critic review. Well, shock and awe, the movie's not out yet. So it doesn't have anything on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
It's still blank. The IMDb also has nothing. So, I'm sorry, the movie just came out today. It's not out as of time of recording.
Okay.
So we're going to have to do it on our own here. Scale to 1 to 100, where you put this one at. I'm going to start with you, Nico. Mr. I'm too good to spit on myself.
Whoa.
Wow.
This took a turn. That's a different kind of movie now, bro. Having said that, I really mess with this. I really mess with this. It's something that it gets you thinking, and I think there is more to it because of the attention paid to detail with the lore and how the characters are sort of like developed in it. And just with the general vibe of it all, I found myself really liking it. And again, I cannot say this enough. The soundtrack fucking bangs. I'm gonna give this an 80.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Dan, where you at?
Nico took my score. I'm also going to give it an 80. I actually like this one quite a bit. I think I'm going to go back and rewatch this pretty soon because there's a lot of lines and things that you kind of brought up, Justin, that Nunos said that I either didn't catch or didn't fully understand the depth that they held at the moment.
Yeah.
So like I want to go back and rewatch it after having all this conversation. I liked it quite a bit. Again, as we kind of talked about, there's a few visual things that I'm a little iffy on, especially with Nunos, but overall, I like this one.
Wow, I shouldn't even say anything because my score is exactly the same as y'all's too. It is actually an 80.
This is twice in a row. Wow.
Oh, in a row too. Yeah, you're right.
And I honestly just really dig the movie. It was something where I was unsure when I started watching it. I didn't know how this was going to turn out and I didn't know how this was going to be. But the one thing I will say that we haven't really talked about too much is the pacing of the movie was pretty good.
It was.
So we were able to kind
Great
of get
acting
started.
too, honestly.
Yeah, we were able to get started right away. And, for a movie that's independent, I think it worked well within the confines that obviously any independent movie is going to have. And I liked it a lot. And real quick, I forgot to totally mention this. I know we've already given it the score of 80, so hold that. Dan, what was your favorite scene?
Oh, yeah.
Nico, start thinking.
Can I give 2, 1.5?
Oh, go ahead. 1.5. I allow it.
My main favorite scene was the first time we see Nunos, like right after the hunt begins. Who was it? Was it Leo or somebody gets fucking headbutted across the screen? I don't know if you remember I can't remember.
No. It was one of the other chicks. It was, I think her name might have been Teresa
Tatya?
or
Tabitha.
Tabitha.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, like, Nunos comes out of nowhere and just headbutts her. She goes flying across the screen. And I was like, oh, shit.
Funny.
Like, I laughed in a good way. Like, it was a good laugh, not as in like, oh, this is bad laugh. But like, that took me by surprise, too. I was like, oh, shit, the hunt really has started.
There was this game that Nico and I have played, shout outs to Divinity, but there's this attack called Bull Rush. And in my head, I was like, what the fuck is a bull rush? But now that I've seen this movie and I saw that scene, I was like, bro, I texted Nico. I was like, bro, remember that like move, bull rush? You're about to see it in real life. And literally Nico knew exactly what I was talking about. He texted me as soon as it happened. He was like, oh, yep, confirmed. That was definitely bull rush. So that was pretty funny. But what was your half scene, Dan? What's your next piece?
My half scene, the reason why it's half, because again, this is part where I'm going to have to go back and rewatch, but I think it's going to be the last like 15, 20 minutes of the movie with Nunos and when he's speaking and saying his shit. And just, I think when I go back and rewatch that, understanding a lot more now, I think that's going to hold a lot more weight than it did the first time.
Mm-hmm. Nico, you've had time. What is it?
My favorite scene is when Miles is rubbing mud on his face and is looking all sexy like.
Oh.
My God. Mein Gott, as they would
Arthur.
say in Germany.
Not Arthur, just
not Arthur.
Yeah, not Arthur.
Out of character.
So that ends, with that ends the scene where Nunos downs Leo for the count. Just the shot with that massive fucking tree taking up the center of the image and just the beautiful sort of landscape there was picturesque. It was fucking picturesque.
My favorite scene, and this is kind of a cheat on me as well, but my favorite scene is when Robin's talking about her experiences hunting and, like her grandfather took out a deer eye and tried to make her eat it and everything else like that. And just the general, like, she couldn't do the killing part. And culturally, so, like I learned how to like dig out fisheye and whatnot from a young age. I was digging out fish eyes. And when I was real small, I'd always like fuck up. And I'd pop. Anyone ever popped a fisheye? Like, I'd always fuck up and pop the fisheye. And my mom would get so angry at me for popping the fisheye. But when you dig out a fisheye in any
Is that
eye,
like
really,
bad luck or something?
No, it's a fucking mess. And and it makes it more difficult to dig out. But when quick tip, if you're digging out eyes, just you got to really get in there and scoop it out. I used to use a knife and just like go around. But anyways, there's that. But
These and other murder tips from...
oh my God, it's for animals. So another thing, though, is like I've seen committed, been part of, like the killing of animals. Okay, that sounds way worse than than it really is. But that shit is natural. Like, where do you think your food comes from? You think your food comes from
grocery store?
I've been a part of the killing of animals.
Okay.
You could have said that so much better.
The point being is food doesn't come in your nice little boxes, okay? Life is paid.
But it does. Today's sponsor, Fresh Direct.
But yeah, like sometimes you gotta like jump on that cow and kill it. When that goat is bleeding for its life, you slit its throat. That's what we do here.
Go jump on that cow, Justin. Big up yourself.
I did big up myself. That's all I gotta say. That's my favorite scene because I feel like her reaction, because she was very much like forced into it, was very different from mine. Like if you ever lived on a farm, give me a shout out right now. And if you never chased a chicken with its head cut off, come on. You did that. Okay, you know what? You two are lame and I'm beast. So that's a great way to stop that. Now, recommendations. We kind of said it before, but let's say it one more time. So let's get a recommend from the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, Golden Seal, though.
I'm going to say no. Sorry.
I don't think it's Golden Seal, but
say it, because I was going to say that.
Personally would give it the Diamond in the Rough.
Agreed. I don't think it quite hits Golden Seal, but it's definitely a diamond in the rough, which, as a reminder to listeners, exclusively is given to independent films that we think have a lot of heart. They're good movies. And yeah, they just barely missed out on being, the Golden Seal, but it's more difficult for independent movies to compete in that regard. So diamond in the rough for sure. Hang on, got to do the diamond sound. There we go. Nice. Diamond sound.
I have a couple questions after the pod.
All right. Well, if you want to drop us a line and let us know what's up, hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror. We're also on Facebook. Don't open that door. You can check out this episode and everything else we've done on our website. That's dotdhorror.com. But till next time, check out this movie. Support independent horror. Give this shit some love. Take care of yourselves. You're goddamn right, nature is scary. And as always, dear listener, don't open that door. Bye.